he disappears from the historical record, creating huge uncertainty as to where and when he died. Of course, for some people, he's just like King Arthur, still alive, still hiding somewhere in the woods of Wales, waiting for the day when the Welsh people will call him again. It's a compelling myth, and it certainly helps to explain why the name Glyndwr still resonates so powerfully today.
Owain Glyndŵr's disappearance, rather than his surrender or his death in an encounter, I think that's one of his big achievements. To look at the rebellion from the future back.
When one looks at Llywelyn, well, he came to an end. He lost his head, which was stuck on a pole on the Tower of London, so there's no disputing about the end of Llywelyn. But Glyndŵr is an altogether more mythical character in that respect.
So if we accept, maybe a little reluctantly, that Glyndŵr isn't still alive, we're left with two main questions. Where and when did he die, and how did he spend his final years? No one knows for sure, but his death probably happened around 2 years after his disappearance, and much of that time is thought to have been spent in and around this grand house, which lies very near the Welsh border in Herefordshire. Kentchurch Court has been owned and occupied by the Scudamores for more than 1,000 years. The family was Norman to start with and then English, but during the 15th century it had strong links with Wales and with one Welshman in particular.
So, Jan, where are we going now?
We're coming into Glyndwr's tower, and this is the oldest part of the house. When the Scudamores first arrived here around 1058, they would have probably lived here.
You said Glyndwr's tower. What is Owain Glyndwr's link to this house?
Well, John Scudamore, who was a prominent man of his day, married Alice, Glyndwr's daughter, and we believe that after the failure of his rebellion, he came here probably to lick his wounds and reflect on how things would have been, and obviously it would have been a safe house.
So he was hiding?
He was hiding.
I mean, it's a remarkable thing to think that it is probable that Owain Glyndŵr stayed in this very room.
That's true. If you look at this bed, okay, he wouldn't have slept in that bed because it's 16th century, but he would have probably gone through that door. He would have spent time here.
And that is intriguing stuff. I'm sure we'll agree on that. And elsewhere in the old house, there's another possible link with Glyndŵr, an old oil painting that might just show us the great warrior as he looked at the end of his life.
You can see that it's a beautiful painting, painted probably on a gesso background. You can see the colours are coming forward, they're bright, very intense.
And we think it's Jack of Kent, who was a local folk hero.
That's correct.
But it could be other people too, could it not? Could it be Owain Glyndŵr?
I think so, yes, because I believe that he is supposed to have lived until his 60s, and it does give us the impression of an old, wizened man. Jack of Kent would have been a young man, so maybe it is Owain Glyndŵr.
Owain Glyndŵr will always be a bit of a mystery figure, but the greatest mystery of all surrounds his death. And the Scudamore family are convinced that he died here at this farm a few miles away from Kentchurch Court, and that his remains lie buried in there under that grassy mound in this little wood at the back of the farm. Having said that, someone else has tried to prove that his remains were taken to West Wales and that he was buried in Carmarthenshire. And it's not difficult to find claims that Owain Glyndŵr is buried in all parts of Wales, all of which is very interesting, but not nearly as interesting as the life he led and what he tried to achieve. The revolt of Owain Glyndŵr cost many lives, we shouldn't forget that. What's more, it didn't succeed. But it did achieve something very important. It reinforced the Welsh people's sense of themselves as a distinct nation. And this may well be one of the main reasons why a strong Welsh identity has survived until modern times. So what I'm saying is that Owain Glyndŵr did his countrymen the greatest of favours. Over 600 years have passed since Owain Glyndŵr surveyed the world from his home here at Sycharth. 6 long centuries since that epic struggle against the English. Here was a man who loved his country and whose countrymen loved him. Unlike William Wallace, Owain Glyndŵr was never betrayed by his own people. Shakespeare gave him one of his best lines. He said, "All the courses of my life do show that I am not in the role of common men." Owain Glyndŵr was a great man, and his dream lives on.